The girl Jaden Hayes brought home today has a great aura. Big eyes, fair skin, and a head of neat, straight black hair. She looks 6 out of 10 like Luna Reed. Luna Reed was the first girlfriend he dated in college. After they broke up, she moved to the US. Jaden Hayes seems to have developed an obsession, scouring the city for girls who look like Luna Reed. I wasn't the first, and I won't be the last. But I'm the one who stayed by his side the longest. Because I'm patient enough. I have a good temper. I can answer his friend's call at 4 a.m. and go pick him up from the nightclub. Even if there's another girl wrapped around his neck. I can still kneel down, take out a wet wipe, and carefully, bit by bit, wipe his face. I took his hands off other girls' waists and gently wiped his fingers and the palms of his hands with the wet wipes. His fingers twitched, and his jaw was immediately clenched. Jaden Hayes had opened his eyes at some point. His dark eyes, with a hint of drunkenness at the corners, made his gaze even more alluring. "When did you get here?" I smiled. "Just arrived." He remained motionless, looking down at me from above. He stared at me, his eyes filled with curiosity. "Sophia Miller, why don't you ever get angry?" I finished wiping his hand and continued to take his other hand, wiping it slowly and carefully. "Does getting angry help? If I get angry, will you stop seeing other women?" He smiled, his drunken eyes hazy, the corners of his lips curving slightly. "Sorry, that's something I can't do." He laughed like a spoiled brat, utterly mischievous. He laughed for a moment, then suddenly reached out and messed up the ponytail I had tied up. Since I had left in a hurry, I hadn't put on makeup or contact lenses. I grabbed a pair of black framed glasses as a temporary fix. After Jaden Hayes messed up my hair bun, he took off my glasses. He leaned against the sofa and admired me for a moment, satisfied. This looks just right." He liked me with my hair down and didn't like me dyeing my hair. He especially disliked me wearing black framed glasses. I once asked Jaden Hayes, "Should we go see a doctor?" He hugged me from behind, making my earlobe itch. "I've been checked. I'm just sick." He laughed like a madman. "I don't want to get treated either." As he kissed me, he asked again, "Sophia Miller, what kind of man do you like?" I extended my finger, tracing the contour of his eyebrows and the bridge of his nose. I closed my eyes and kissed his Adam's apple. "I like you like this." His Adam's apple bobbed slightly, and his eyes darkened. "You're pretty good at lying." But this didn't stop Jaden Hayes from moving on to someone new. The first time he brought a girl home, I was cooking in the kitchen. When they walked in, the girl was clearly startled by me. Jaden Hayes remained calm, and when he saw the expression on my face, he even snorted, "If you can't handle it, you can leave." I watched them being intimate. Seeing his hand on the girl's waist, the gap in my heart felt like someone had suddenly poured salt on it. I lowered my eyes, slowly pulled out the dining chair, and pretended to be casual. "Auntie bought a lot of fresh crab today. Let's eat first." The girl was clearly uncomfortable. I smiled at her. "It's okay, let's eat together." But it was clear that the girl had been scared off by the strange atmosphere in the house. After taking a few bites, she made an excuse to leave. Jaden Hayes pushed his bowl away. Ugh, what a buzzkill. I knew he was talking about me. I served him another bowl of soup. "Sorry, next time you bring someone over, I'll clear the house for you." Jaden Hayes slouched in his chair, propping his chin up to look at me. As if he could see through my face to the depths of my soul. "Sophia Miller, if I had known you were so difficult, I never would have gotten involved with you." He licked his lips, deliberately saying the most despicable things to provoke me. I lowered my head and scooped at the rice, which had been sitting too long and was now cold. I swallowed, choking, my eyes reddening. "I don't care how many girlfriends you have, and I can accept you bringing people home. Just don't kick me out. I want to stay with you." Jaden Hayes fell silent, the smile on his face slowly fading. Finally, he stood up, looking down at me. "Fine. If you can put up with it, I don't care." Jaden Hayes' female companions came and went one after another. But it didn't affect his standing in the circle. Jaden Hayes came from a wealthy family. He was a second-generation rich kid. After breaking up with each girl, she would either leave with a large sum of money or receive a house and a car. So even though he was promiscuous, no girl would ever fight with him after breaking up. Except me. I seemed to be really hard to let go of. After dating Jaden Hayes for 2 months, He grew tired of me and wanted to break up. He threw a set of Lamborghini car keys on the table. Choose between the car and the house. If you don't like either, I'll have someone transfer 2 million into your account. I shook my head and pushed the car keys back to him. Then I returned the bag he had given me and turned to leave. After I turned around, I cried bitterly. But it wasn't because of him. 3 days later, Jaden Hayes showed up at my door drunk. As soon as he entered the house, he pressed me against the door and kissed me. He had drunk a lot, probably after partying all night with his friends. He lifted my hands behind my back with one hand, held them tightly, and used the other to undo my buttons. Damn it. Sophia Miller, what kind of nightgown is this? So many buttons? He kissed my face while impatiently trying to undo the buttons. Before I could explain that I wasn't comfortable, he collapsed on top of me. We lay on the living room floor. The floor was cold, and the moonlight was like water. I pushed Jaden Hayes away and sat up. Under the moonlight, Jaden Hayes' features were striking. His mother was French, and he had inherited the best genes. He had the most perfect face. I leaned down and kissed the tip of his nose. Tears fell one by one. My Ethan G also had such a beautiful nose. The same double eyelids, thin lips. I reconciled with Jaden Hayes. Not only reconciled, but we also started living together. I thought things would continue this way, but he seemed to be a leopard who couldn't change his spots. Less than a month later, he started constantly changing girlfriends. I had completely become the most disgraceful and spineless substitute in his friends' eyes. Actually, I didn't care about any of that. I lived my life well every day, going to work when I should, eating alone when I had to. All I needed was to see his face in the bedroom every night. My friends think I'm disgusting and despicable. To stoop so low for a man. I don't care. Anyway, I'll be seeing Ethan G soon. On Jaden Hayes' birthday, he invited a bunch of his friends. The usual place, the hottest nightclub in the city. I was holding a cake I had made myself. The gift was a sapphire ring I had saved up for months to buy. Jaden Hayes had given me his card, but I didn't take it. I wasn't after his money. When I arrived at the nightclub and pushed open the private room door, the noise inside suddenly stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. One of Jaden Hayes' friends came over and tried to get me to step aside. Jaden Hayes. I stepped around him and looked inside. In the far corner of the sofa, Jaden Hayes was pressing a girl against the wall, their bodies in a compromising position. They looked like they were kissing. He heard my voice, turned his face toward me, and wiped his lips with his finger. He smiled and waved at me. Cece, come here. Under everyone's stunned gaze, I walked over as if nothing had happened. After putting down the cake, I knelt down in front of Jaden Hayes. I opened the gift box and took out the ring. Happy birthday, Jaden Hayes. After taking the ring out, Jaden Hayes slipped it onto his finger, his smile becoming a bit meaningful. The ring was a bit too big and loose. I'm sorry, I'll take it back to the store to have it adjusted, I apologized. He replied lazily. He took the ring off and put it back in the box, then casually tossed it onto the table. The girl who had been kissed by him earlier noticed me and her expression turned sour. She tugged at Jaden Hayes' sleeve and shook it gently. Who is she? Jaden Hayes stretched out his arm and hooked the girl's shoulder. He smiled lewdly. Girlfriend. The girl pouted. What about me then? Probably because Jaden Hayes was so shameless, the people around them started to cheer. Hugo is so cool, he won't even fight over this. It's because his girlfriend has such a big heart. I didn't like this noisy environment. Jay, I'm going home first. Come back early tonight. Tonight, you should stay at the house on Sunset Boulevard. He glanced at me. You're here, and it's inconvenient for me to handle things tonight. I paused. All right. He seemed off today, like he was trying to push me to the brink. Just as I stood up, he grabbed my arm and whispered in my ear, you don't have to go. Want to try 3 people? Looking at that face that resembled Ethan G's, I finally lost my temper. I slapped him hard across the face. After hitting him, I froze. Everyone in the room froze. I had hit him pretty hard. Jaden Hayes used his tongue to touch the soft flesh inside his right cheek, surprisingly not getting angry. He didn't scold me either. He just looked at me with a half smile. I sighed, sorry. I'll just leave first. Jaden Hayes leaned back, lazily tapping the table with his fingers. Sit down. I had provoked him after all. After all, I had slapped him in front of so many people. If I left now, I would probably end up being dumped. After I sat down, Jaden Hayes' friend came over to offer me a drink, and I originally intended to refuse. Jaden Hayes leaned in close to my ear, his voice low and intimate, as if we were a couple deeply in love. Don't be a killjoy. If he tells you to drink, just drink. I took it and took a sip. It was beer, very bitter. When I was with Ethan G., he never let me drink when we were out with friends. This was my first time meeting his friends. When his friend offered me a drink, Ethan G. reached out and took it. Fearing his roommate would be upset, he didn't hesitate and drank double. That night, we took a taxi home. He was well behaved after drinking. He closed his eyes and slept, not causing any trouble. When we arrived, I opened the door to help him out. He stood up as if nothing had happened. I was amazed by his drinking tolerance and excitedly recounted the joke his friends had told during dinner. I chattered non-stop, while he walked slowly behind me, saying nothing, just smiling with his lips slightly curved. As soon as the door closed, my arm was gently but firmly pulled back. I was pushed against the door. Ethan G's right hand was behind my head, and when he kissed me, his palm slid down a little. He pinched the back of my neck. I was a little ticklish and laughed, pulling my neck back. Ethan G hadn't eaten anything that night, only drinking beer. His lips were soft, and his tongue had a bitter taste of beer and the aroma of wheat. Mian, I can't hold back anymore. My ears turned crimson, and just as I was about to speak, I suddenly felt an itchy discomfort in my throat. I coughed twice. Ethan G reached out to turn on the light. The moment he saw my face, he scooped me up and ran downstairs. At the hospital, we found out I had an immediate allergic reaction to alcohol. Kissing shouldn't have caused an allergic reaction in me. But I have a severe allergy, even skin contact with alcohol triggers symptoms. The doctor asked how much I'd drunk. I blushed, just a sip. Ethan G's ears were red too. He bent down to give me water. After the doctor left, he sighed, I'm never drinking again. I laughed, you're not allergic. But I want to kiss you anytime, anywhere, he said matter-of-factly, and drinking makes me want to kiss you even more. But now, there's no one left to stop me from drinking. I held the beer in my hand, turned my head, and looked at Jaden Hayes. Looking into those star and moon eyes so similar to Ethan G's, I smiled at him. Silently. Ethan G, I miss you so much. When I tilted my head back to drink the beer, I raised my arms high, just enough to hide the tears streaming down my face. When Jaden Hayes picked me up and put me in the car, I was already half conscious. My throat was swollen, and I could barely make a sound. Thinking back to how Jaden Hayes had lost his temper in the private room earlier, I felt a bit amused. After 3 drinks, I felt terrible. I curled up in the corner of the sofa. Jaden Hayes remembered me and called my name, but I didn't move. He walked over, bent down, and lifted my hair to look at my face. Damn it, he said, helping me up. Are you allergic to alcohol? I was too miserable to respond. His friends gathered around, but Jaden Hayes spoke softly, each word laced with anger and cruelty. Get out of the way. He picked me up and carried me out quickly. But Jaden Hayes, you were the one who made me drink. You're the one who made me like this. Jaden Hayes lowered his head and sat in the driver's seat. I struggled to get up. My throat was hoarse, like I had glass shards stuck in it, and I was gasping for breath. You've been drinking, don't drive. Jaden Hayes ignored me and got in the car. I don't care. Jaden Hayes' friends also came running out. One of his friends blocked the front of the car and banged on the window, telling him to get out. Jaden Hayes, get lost. I felt something was off with him. He revved the engine, and the sound of the sports car's engine was deafening. His eyes were red, and he sneered, if you don't get out of the way, I'll run you over too. Jaden Hayes' friend looked serious. You stop this. I promised your mom, you did this last time. He glanced at me and stopped speaking. I closed my eyes and reached out to tug at his sleeve. I feel so sick. Let someone else drive. Finally, he relented. Jaden Hayes' friend, who was driving, it's all thanks to the boss's wife. She can handle you. I weakly tugged at the corner of my mouth in response. The car started moving, and I buried my face deeper. My expression grew colder. Halfway there, the road must have been uneven. The car jolted. I was already feeling sick, and the jolt made me feel even worse. Jaden Hayes suddenly pulled me toward him, pressing me down, and fixed my head against his leg. Lie still, don't move. My eyes were swollen shut, and I tried to open them to see his expression. He placed his palm over my eyelids. His palm was ice cold, and the swelling around my eyes eased slightly. Jaden Hayes shouted forward. If it jerks again, get the hell out of here. Upon arriving at the hospital. Coincidentally, we encountered the same doctor from last time. The doctor actually recognized me, which annoyed me. Young lady, do you not value your life? Do you know how severe your alcohol allergy symptoms are? Do you know you could have been in critical condition if you'd waited any longer? I told your boyfriend 1,000 times last time. These young people nowadays. I kept my eyes down and didn't say a word. The four was flowing too fast, and the cold fluid made my veins ache. The doctor scolded me and then turned to scold Jaden Hayes. Just as I was about to speak, I saw Jaden Hayes standing there with his head bowed and his hands in his pockets. Surprisingly, he was taking the scolding without complaint. I felt a bit dazed. Jaden Hayes, this spoiled second-generation rich kid, had been pampered and spoiled since childhood, developing a stubborn temper. No one dared to speak harshly to him. He was also crazy, and when he went wild, he was a reckless fool who didn't recognize his own family. His brows were still furrowed. But the hostility on his face had diminished significantly. He even listened calmly to the doctor's instructions. Perhaps it was because of guilt. His peaceful demeanor now resembled Ethan G's a bit more. My Ethan G. At all times, his eyes were filled with light and warmth. His eyes were slightly curved, and his hair was light in color, appearing chestnut brown in the sunlight. His bangs were curly. They were soft and warm, resembling a golden retriever puppy. Because he had to stay in the hospital. I told Jaden Hayes to go back first. He leaned against the window, and the moonlight was gentle, washing away much of the hostility from his body. Jaden Hayes lowered his head, biting his cigarette, then paused before lighting it. He leaned against the wall and asked me, "Did you also have an allergic reaction to alcohol and end up in the hospital before?" I nodded. The bedside lamp in the ward was dim, and my eyes hadn't fully swollen down yet. I couldn't make out the expression on his face clearly. "So you're not afraid of dying today?" Jaden Hayes chuckled, "Or are you trying to make me feel guilty?" "No," I shook my head. "I just don't want you to be unhappy on your birthday. Today is your birthday. A friend once told me that on your birthday, all your wishes come true. Otherwise, the new year won't go smoothly. 3 years ago, on my birthday, Ethan G asked me to make 5 wishes. I asked him if that was too many, and he said it wasn't. He even said 10 wasn't enough. I asked him to marry me, and he said, "Mian Mian, it's not my birthday today. Don't make it easy for me." Humph. Superstition, Jaden Hayes snorted, leaning against the window to feel the breeze. "Sophia Miller, don't do that again. Just say you're allergic to alcohol. I'm not some irredeemable villain." I hummed in response. "But, Jaden Hayes, you're exactly the kind of irredeemable scoundrel." Jaden Hayes stayed for a while before deciding to leave. "He's just a playboy. I didn't think a hospital stay due to an alcohol allergy would be enough to truly move him." After he left the ward, I sat up and pulled out the needle. A sharp pain shot through my wrist, and the needle dangled, dripping a few drops of blood. But I felt a masochistic pleasure. This pain reminded me of who I was and where I was. Back when I was sick in the hospital. Ethan G would sit on the chair next to my bed all night. He would occasionally touch my forehead, and when I turned over, he would tuck the blanket around me. I wasn't someone who was overly emotional. But because of Ethan G, I became extra clingy. In my 20s, I gradually became so delicate that I didn't want to twist a bottle cap, didn't want to hold a cold milk tea, and didn't even want to carry my own bag. During that hospitalization for gastroenteritis, I received 4 fluids for 3 days, and my hands swelled up from the 4. The injection into the vein was also very painful. It was the middle of winter, so Ethan G went out to borrow a saline bag, filled it with hot water, wrapped it in a t-shirt, and carefully placed it on my wrist. I told him he was acting like an old mother. He stroked my arm to ease the pain from the medication while smiling. I could be your old mother for the rest of your life. Isn't that what a wife is for, to be married and pampered? I laughed again. Laughing, I started crying again, feeling a bit like a lunatic. A moth had flown into the ward at some point, fluttering around the light. A man's voice came from behind me. Don't cry. Jaden Hayes was holding a lunchbox and a bag. He smelled of smoke. After putting down the items, he noticed the blood on my hand. He immediately pressed the nurse's call button. The nurse came and took care of me before leaving. Jaden Hayes sat on the sofa beside me, smiling faintly. You get so angry just because I left? I pulled myself back into the blankets and didn't say a word. Jaden Hayes, are you angry because I didn't stay with you? He pointed at the lunchbox. I had someone make some porridge for you. Do you want to eat some now? It's still hot. Why did you come back? My nose was buzzing, and my voice sounded hoarse. Jaden Hayes remained silent for a moment. Leaving you in the hospital like that, that's not something a human being would do. But for some reason, I didn't want him to stay with me today. Your new girlfriend today will be upset. Jaden Hayes grew impatient. You're being sincere, aren't you? I closed my mouth. Jaden Hayes turned off the light. I heard the sofa creak as he lay down on it fully clothed. His face was turned inward, his back outward. This position was better. He looked 80% like Ethan G. I watched for a while before feeling sleepy. I slept restlessly that night, feeling uncomfortable all over. Tossing and turning, half asleep, I felt someone touching my forehead. I grabbed it, and the nightmare held me captive. I clung tightly to the hand, pressing it against my cheek. It felt like I had cried a lot, and the pillow was soaked. When I woke up the next morning, I was holding Jaden Hayes' hand. He was clearly also sleeping restlessly, leaning against the chair, his head nodding. I chuckled. Jaden Hayes woke up. He groaned and twisted his neck. It was clearly uncomfortable for him. At the same time, I was quite surprised that Jiang Dashi, the young master, would stoop so low to accommodate a sick person. Jaden Hayes rubbed the back of his neck, his eyebrows almost knotted together. I told you to go back, I laughed. Jaden Hayes, if you hadn't been kicking the blankets, crying, and causing a commotion all night, would I have had to? Did I really sleep that restlessly last night? Actually, there were times when I was even more restless. During the period after Ethan G. died, I suffered from sleepwalking. I would get up in the middle of the night and go out onto the rooftop to sit there. I was discovered by security several times. But for some reason, I never jumped. In my dream, Ethan G. was furious, grabbing my arms and stopping me from jumping. He said that if I dared to jump, he would never forgive me in his next life. That was the first time I saw Ethan G. get angry with me. Even though it was just a dream. His eyes were filled with such intense sadness and anger that it was almost unbearable. Jaden Hayes, I suddenly asked him, what if one day I completely disappeared from your life? What would you do? Jaden Hayes pulled out a pack of gum from his pocket, popped it into his mouth, and puffed out his cheeks. He squinted and smiled. What else could I do? Get a new one. Still such a jerk. I pulled back the blanket and sat up, taking out the keys and door card from my clothes and placing them on the table. I pushed them back to him. Let's break up, Jaden Hayes. I'm a bit tired. I stood up, put on my shoes, grabbed my jacket, and whispered, Jaden Hayes, I overestimated myself. As I left the ward without looking back, I heard Jaden Hayes' footsteps, but I was walking quickly. I quickly ran into the stairwell at the corner and hid behind the door. I saw Jaden Hayes hurry past. He must have been chasing me. Finally, he had taken the first step into my trap. All the humiliation I had endured while pretending to be with him didn't matter anymore. I would make him sink into hell. Sink with me. 3 years ago. On New Year's Eve, Ethan G. drove me to his house for the holiday. We had been delayed by overtime work and some trivial matters that day, so we left late. When we got on the highway, there weren't many cars at that hour. I was feeling sleepy and dozed off in the passenger seat. Ethan G. reached over and turned the music down a bit. His voice was low and soft. Nyan, don't sleep too deeply. We'll be there soon. I mumbled a few words. He laughed. Nyan, Mom heard you like crab, so she bought 5 pounds of hairy crabs. Before he could finish, Ethan G. suddenly jerked the steering wheel. I felt my entire body suddenly lose weight as the car rolled over several times. The car that hit us was a yellow Maserati. The car flipped over, and Ethan G. and I were suspended in our seats. Blood flowed from my jaw, blurring my vision. But I saw clearly and distinctly the young man getting out of the driver's seat. He was a young man. He couldn't even walk straight. He was clearly drunk. After seeing this, he staggered toward our car. He even walked closer, bending down to look inside. In the chaos, he was about to grab our door handle. A woman's voice called out to him. Someone grabbed his arms and dragged him away. But even just a glance. I clearly saw his face. I quickly lost consciousness. And my Ethan G. was gone forever in that car accident. He didn't even get to say goodbye. I can't remember how I got through that time. I stayed awake all night, staring at my phone, reading the chat messages Ethan G. and I had exchanged before the accident. After learning the outcome of the accident, I became even more devastated. The driver who caused the accident had been framed. The surveillance footage from that section of the highway that night had mysteriously malfunctioned, so there was no video of the accident. The person who took the fall was quickly convicted and sent to prison. My testimony was not accepted. The person I identified had an alibi for that night. I appealed everywhere, but to no avail. One day, even my friends came to me, Mian, this might just be the way it is. You're suing the Hayes family. There's no corner of this city where they don't have connections. My friend handed me a newspaper, and that second-generation heir of theirs isn't a first-time offender when it comes to hit-and-run accidents. I began to investigate Jaden Hayes on my own. After that incident, he fled abroad and stayed there for 2 years, so I followed him overseas. The girl he liked was named Luna Reed. I began to gather information about Luna Reed. Later, I heard that he was searching for girls who resembled Luna Reed to go on dates with. When I entered the plastic surgery clinic, I actually wanted to back out. Even after the surgery, I almost gave up on my revenge plan. But every time I went home, I couldn't help but think of Ethan G. I remembered everything he told me, everything we went through, every detail was etched in my memory. Ethan G. is gone. And the one responsible hasn't faced any consequences. When Jaden Hayes returned to the country, I followed him. He spent his days partying with his friends at nightclubs, and his goal was clear. Girls like Luna Reed. Long black straight hair, wearing white t-shirts and jeans. That day, I deliberately dressed up like a college student, simple and innocent, without any makeup, and rushed into their private room with a backpack. After scanning the room, I pretended to be startled and bent down to apologize. Sorry, I went to the wrong place. Then I pretended to answer a call. Hello, aren't you guys in room 336? Why isn't anyone there? I went to the neighboring private room. The neighboring private room was reserved by me and the people I had hired. 3 hours later, I walked out of the KTV. I was waiting for a ride downstairs. A large G-Class honked at me. It was Jaden Hayes. He finally took the bait. Actually, before I had plastic surgery, I had deliberately appeared in front of Jaden Hayes several times, hoping he would be afraid, hoping he would be terrified. But his reaction left me utterly despairing. He had no idea who I was. Later, I found out that Jaden Hayes' mother had made sure he was completely out of the loop regarding this matter. At the time, Jaden Hayes knew nothing about the progress of the case or what happened afterward. Jaden Hayes only knew that his all-powerful mother had once again handled everything for him. Except for that night when he bent down and caught a glimpse of me and Ethan G. At the time, Ethan G. and I were covered in blood, and he probably didn't get a clear look at our faces. So later, when I had plastic surgery, it was just a minor adjustment. I studied Luna Reed's mannerisms and behavior, mimicking her for half a year. When I finally faced Jaden Hayes in person, I was still a bit dazed. Before that, I already knew he resembled Ethan G. But I never expected the resemblance to be so striking. It was an utterly baffling coincidence. We were each other's stand-ins, testing the waters. I moved cautiously, humbling myself without any boundaries, all to find evidence of that night when he hit someone with his car. Fortunately, I made some progress. I don't know why he still kept the surveillance footage from that night. That night, Jaden Hayes was dropped off by a friend at 2 a.m. He sat in the lobby, staring blankly until dawn. This surveillance footage clearly proves that Jaden Hayes' so-called alibi that night was fabricated. I left the hospital and returned to my own home. The room was filled with photos and clues from my investigation into Jaden Hayes. Across from it was Ethan G's portrait. Ethan, I'm back. I relit the incense and placed it properly. I wiped the dust off it with my sleeve. Ethan, I sniffed, pressing my forehead against the photo. Sorry I didn't come back to see you for so long. I know you'd be angry that I went after Jaden Hayes. But I couldn't care less. I have to drag him to hell, and he must pay the price. He must go to prison, and he must kneel before your portrait, bowing his head over and over again, begging for forgiveness. A man like him, who did such evil deeds, why is he still alive? He deserves nothing but unrequited love and betrayal. I want him to spend the rest of his life atoning for his sins. Jaden Hayes was spoiled rotten by his family's influence. Deep down, he was just a pitiful, love-starved soul. He spends day and night searching for someone who looks like Luna Reed, merely to satisfy his need for love. Luna Reed left him because he grew tired of her shortly after winning her over. The prolonged neglect drove Luna Reed to the brink, prompting her to leave the country. In truth, Jaden Hayes is just trying to prove himself to his mother. He wants to escape his mother's constraints but can't find a way to resist. In the end, he simply doesn't understand love. He doesn't know how to love someone. I've been staying at his house for so long, and he brings different girls home every day. They don't stay long at night before being sent away. He doesn't even have a relationship with any of them. He's like a spoiled child obsessed with a childish game. Pitiful and tragic. So when he came back to take care of me even though I was hospitalized with an allergic reaction, I knew I had won. I bet he had a shred of humanity left. When a villain gains a conscience, he is doomed to suffer day and night for that tiny spark of kindness. The phone kept ringing. It was Jaden Hayes. There were also many text messages. I opened one. Sophia Miller, get your ass back here. Sophia Miller, where are you running off to? Did I agree to break up? Want to break up? Fine, let's talk face to face. Sophia Miller, can we just stop playing games? Really angry? Fine, I'll apologize, okay? I forced a smile, laughing bitterly. Ethan. I finally found this beast's weakness. But it's so disgusting, I'm the one who's weak. I deliberately ignored him for days. I didn't answer his calls or reply to his messages. I went missing. Jaden Hayes went to my workplace to confront me, so I quit my job. He had someone track down my address, so I moved. I was just toying with him. I deliberately interacted with other guys and went to the store owned by Jaden Hayes' friends with them. Jaden Hayes wasn't there, though. But I guess as soon as I step into that nightclub, his friends will tell him I'm there. The guy is a student I found from film school. He's a great actor. He looks like a K-pop star and is tall. We were sitting together playing dice and truth or dare. The guy lost and chose truth. I saw a few familiar figures. I leaned in close and whispered in his ear, choose dare, I'll give you extra money. Right now. Kiss my face. The guy was taken aback, but he had professional training. He blushed and was about to lower his head to kiss me. A bottle was thrown at the table. The bottle shattered, and everyone at our table was startled. The guy didn't know what was going on, but he instinctively shielded me. Jaden Hayes stood there with his friends. Jaden Hayes looked expressionless, staring at the guy's hand on my shoulder. After a long pause, he laughed, in such a hurry to break up. Must have a new girlfriend. The guy played along with me, what are you talking about? Today is Cece's birthday, we're all here to celebrate with her. Jaden Hayes walked up to me and knelt down. Is today your birthday? I nodded. Jaden Hayes, why didn't you tell me? I smiled, I told you, but you didn't remember. The guy tried to add fuel to the fire. Jaden Hayes shot him a glance, his eyes filled with a murderous intent. He forced a smile, but his expression was cold. You have 2 seconds to leave. I patted the boy on the shoulder, signaling him to leave first. After everyone had left, Jaden Hayes had his friends clear the area. Jaden Hayes poured himself a drink, took a sip, and seemed to be thinking about what to say. Sophia Miller. He turned his head to look at me, his eyes serious, about what you said at the hospital that day. I want to answer you again. If you suddenly disappeared from my life, I'd feel really uncomfortable and sad. He scratched his hair, I think. I've gotten used to having you by my side. I smiled and whispered, Jaden Hayes, you're just used to the habit. You'd be the same with a different nanny. I picked up my bag and stood up to leave. Jaden Hayes suddenly grabbed my arm, Sophia Miller. I looked down at him, and he looked up at me, speaking slowly and seriously. It's not a habit. I really miss you. These past few days, every time I close my eyes, I see you telling me you want to break up. Ethan, look at him, he's so pathetic. I touched his face. But Jaden Hayes, I know you too well. You're like a child who doesn't appreciate what he has once he gets it. I sighed, I just can't stand this constant fear of losing you. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. It was as if he wanted to squeeze me into his body. Trust me. I won't be the same jerk I was before. Cece, let's be together and live happily ever after. He sounded like he was comforting me, but also like he was comforting himself. He murmured softly, patiently soothing me. This wasn't the same Jaden Hayes I knew. He was so tender, it was like he was a stranger. He asked me, today's your birthday. What do you want as a gift? I shook my head. I have a wish. Jaden Hayes said, just say it. There's nothing Jaden Hayes can't buy for you. I said, I want you to tell me the truth, something you can't lie about. He paused for a moment, then laughed, that's it? I can give you 10 of those. I smiled without answering, saying I'd ask him later. Jaden Hayes drove me to the beach. He got out first and opened the door for me. When I got out, the sound of fireworks exploding was deafening. The fireworks lit up the entire night sky. Jaden Hayes' friends cheered and ran over. It seemed really romantic, and he seemed to have fallen in love with me. I tilted my face upward, and the night sky was filled with countless patterns of various shapes and colors. The light from the fireworks danced in my pupils, from bright to darkness. People around me looked at me with envy. I recalled the time I went to the beach with Ethan G. We only bought sparklers, with no audience and no fireworks. We walked along the coastline, chatting. The night wind was strong, so Ethan G took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. Suddenly, he hummed and pulled something out of his pocket. I curiously leaned in to look. He opened his palm. Sophie, will you marry me? It was a diamond ring. I was so excited I jumped up and down on the spot, putting it on before he could take it off. It wasn't too big or too small, it fit perfectly. I loved it. Jaden Hayes had also bought a ring. Amidst the cheers of his friends, he opened the ring box. It was a pink diamond the size of a pigeon's egg. The pink glow was stunningly beautiful. He slipped it onto my finger. From today onward, Sophia Miller, we're starting over. I'll make up for all the pain I've caused you. I'm willing to learn how to be a good boyfriend for you. We embraced under the dazzling fireworks display that left everyone in awe. They thought I was crying because Jaden Hayes had reformed. But in reality, I was crying because Jaden Hayes' time was running out. The feeling of crying out of sheer joy. It was simply too wonderful. The fireworks lasted for 2 whole hours. Jaden Hayes never spared any expense in this regard. He played the field, never getting too close to any woman. He always knew how to manipulate a girl's most sensitive emotions. But I had already loved the best boy in the world. I had seen the most beautiful scenery with him. He said the most sincere and heartfelt words to me. Jaden Hayes' tricks no longer stir a single ripple in my heart. We were by the sea, feeling the breeze. Jaden Hayes bit the end of a cigarette and lit it. Seeing me frown, he turned sideways and extinguished it in the sand. I said, go ahead, it's okay. He replied, I quit. I laughed, so soon? Jaden Hayes held my hand and kissed it. If you don't like it, I can quit anything. He sat down on the ground like me, but with his hands propped up beside him, sitting crookedly and unsteady. Actually, I was so angry with you before because I didn't believe you. I never thought there was someone in this world who could love me so completely. With my family and the people I associate with, who isn't after my money. He stretched lazily. So back then, I felt like you weren't real, including the last time we broke up. I always thought you had an agenda. I looked down at the waves crashing against the shore, feeling a bit amused. I never expected it, never expected I could act so convincingly. It turns out that loving someone can truly be acted out. After reconciling with Jaden Hayes, he always takes me wherever he goes. Sometimes, even when I don't want to go, he insists I accompany him. Jaden Hayes has become increasingly clingy. He would wake up in the morning and prop his chin up to watch me sleep. He would also get up after I woke up and try to make a simple but challenging breakfast for me. For example, fried eggs. Once, I was woken up by the smell of smoke and ran over without even putting on my shoes to see what was happening. It turned out he was in the kitchen. The kitchen was filled with smoke. He frowned, looking like he'd been through a lot, and poured 2 lumps of charcoal out of the pan. Then he crossed his arms, trying to figure out where he went wrong. When he heard me laughing, he turned around. Then he walked over, picked me up, and sat me on the table. He took off his own shoes and put them on my feet. I couldn't stop laughing. Let me do it. He refused. No, Mao just bragged to me about the breakfast he made for his girlfriend. If others have it, you should too. Half a month later, his friend threw a yacht party. We all went up. One of Jaden Hayes' ex-girlfriends was there too. They were partying on the first floor, and there were fewer people on the second floor, so I went up to get some fresh air. His ex-girlfriend was named Amber Quinn, and she was very outgoing and talkative. She came to change into her swimsuit and chatted with me. Do you know that everyone in our circle is jealous of you? She sat down and took out her makeup bag to reapply her makeup. That's Jaden Hayes, the eternal playboy, and he actually turned back to you. You're so lucky. I just laughed, not knowing how to respond. Actually, when I saw you at Jaden Hayes' house before, I had a feeling. Me, what kind of feeling? It must be you. She applied lotion to her face. It's just a feeling. Jaden Hayes will eventually settle down with you. On the way here, Jaden Hayes was distracted, and even when we were out having fun, he kept checking his phone. As a woman's intuition, he must have been thinking about you. I bit the straw and drank the juice. He always teases me. Men are just hypocrites. She started applying mascara. Anyway, you're really lucky. Those girls know that Jaden Hayes has given up his wild ways for you, and they're all jealous. After she finished applying makeup, the 2 of us went to the deck to enjoy the breeze. I'm so jealous of you. Marrying into a wealthy family means you can just relax. She shook her curly hair. A man like Jaden Hayes, once he sets his sights on you, he'll put you on a pedestal. Footsteps echoed from the stairs. I stepped back toward the railing. The sea breeze stung my face. Amber Quinn told me to be careful not to fall. Me, does he love me? I'm still not sure. Why don't you help me out? Amber Quinn reached out to pull me back, but I stopped her arm and curved my lips at her. Help me figure out how much he really loves me. Screams echoed. I leaned backward. Without warning, I fell rapidly. As I fell, I saw the expression on Jaden Hayes' face. I was satisfied. Jaden Hayes couldn't swim. I was still a little surprised to see him jump down without hesitation. He was pulled back by his friends. After the rescue team pulled me up, I was still unconscious. Jaden Hayes performed CPR on me. Sophia Miller, wake up. In my dazed state, I seemed to hear someone calling my name. Was it Ethan G? No, it wasn't him. It was that bastard Jaden Hayes. I sat up abruptly and coughed up a mouthful of water. Jaden Hayes was kneeling beside me, his eyes red. Was he crying? I coughed a few times and asked him, "Are you crying?" He glared at me angrily, but when he picked me up, his movements were gentle. Shut up. I fell silent and snuggled into his arms. Ethan G, it's almost over. Just a little longer, wait for me. That night, Jaden Hayes and I lay side by side on the bed. I had a slight cold, and Jaden Hayes came in from outside with a cup of ginger tea. Auntie said this is good for you. I didn't want to drink it. Jaden Hayes, do you want me to feed you? With my mouth? I sat up and drank it all in one gulp. He came to take the cup, but suddenly leaned down and kissed my lips. Be good. I reflexively dodged. He looked upset. Try dodging again. I said, I have a cold, it'll be contagious. Jaden Hayes, am I afraid of a little cold? When we went to sleep, he wrapped his arms around my waist, holding me tightly. You're not allowed to leave my sight when we go out. And stay away from those women. I said. She didn't push me, I just lost my balance. His voice was muffled and soft. When you fell into the sea today, my mind went blank. I almost thought I'd never see you again. I can swim, Jaden Hayes. I once had a cruel thought. If you went into the water, I might be able to create an accident where you drowned. What a pity. I wanted to make you fall into an endless abyss at the moment you loved me most. 3 months later, Jaden Hayes proposed to me. On the day of the proposal, a woman suddenly burst into the hotel and poured red wine directly onto my face. Jaden Hayes had her restrained. I wouldn't allow it. After she left, I refused him in front of everyone. I'm sorry, that woman is my ex-boyfriend's sister. Her brother saved my life. I can't marry you, at least not now. I took off the ring and returned it to Jaden Hayes. I left the scene amid everyone's shocked stares. After getting into the car, the woman who had slapped me stepped on the gas. She was indeed Ethan G's sister, and she was also a psychologist. When she learned of my plan, she actually opposed it. But I was determined. If Jaden Hayes doesn't go to jail, I'll go mad. Emma G eventually agreed and helped me gather information to analyze Jaden Hayes' psychological profile and body language. This is why I was able to navigate this emotional hunt so smoothly. Emma G applied medicine to the slap on my face. If my brother knew what you did for him, he'd be heartbroken. How could he let you go after such a beast? If I didn't do this, I'd never get over this in my lifetime. The car stopped at a seaside neighborhood. It was the house Ethan G and I had originally bought as our wedding home. This time, Jaden Hayes might have truly been struck by my actions. He didn't contact me for 3 straight days. This made me feel a bit uneasy. Emma G told me not to worry. Judging from his previous behavior, he is now completely dependent on this relationship. And your presence has already far surpassed everyone else around him. At 2 a.m. on the 3rd day, Jaden Hayes called. I answered on the 4th ring. Come downstairs. His voice was hoarse, almost unrecognizable. Compared to him, I had slept well these past few days. Jaden Hayes leaned against the car. I walked closer and saw the exhaustion on his face. Jaden Hayes spoke in a hoarse voice. The guy the doctor mentioned last time, was he your ex-boyfriend who saved you? I nodded. He fell silent. It was cold at night, so I wrapped my arms around myself and pulled my jacket tighter. So I'm sorry, I can't completely forget him. What about me? Jaden Hayes looked pitiful. Does that mean you don't want me anymore? I felt a pang of sadness. Last year's Jaden Hayes was arrogant and unyielding. But now, Jaden Hayes was just a pitiful man trapped in love. I touched his face and took a step back. I'm sorry, my feelings aren't pure. It's my problem, not. He grabbed my arm and pulled me into his embrace. Jaden Hayes' breath was a bit uneven. I don't mind. Jaden Hayes shouted, damn it, Sophia Miller, I said I can handle it. Just don't run away anymore. His voice suddenly dropped. Please, don't leave me. I suddenly felt that the time had come. Before the wedding was set, Jaden Hayes' mother had found me. It was a cliché move. She handed me a card, saying it was $3 million for me to leave Jaden Hayes. The Hayes family wouldn't allow a woman of unknown origin like me to marry into their family. I was indeed of unknown origin. She couldn't find any information about me. I had changed my name, and I was alone. What could she possibly find out? I said, Jaden Hayes will die if he leaves me now. Jaden Hayes' mother was furious. The imperial green jade ring on her finger was dazzling. She pointed at me with her finger and then lowered it. A child who hasn't had a few real relationships before getting deeply involved once is normal. It'll blow over in a couple of days. Anyway, he's always been like this before. In the end, he'll just obey my every word. I glanced at the time. Oh, really? But I think Jaden Hayes might not listen to you this time. As soon as I finished speaking, someone burst into the restaurant. Jaden Hayes walked over with a serious expression, took my hand, and tried to leave. Jaden Hayes. His mother exploded, dare you leave? If you dare, you're not my son. He glanced back at his mother but eventually pulled me away and left. Jaden Hayes has been sleeping increasingly poorly lately. He seems very restless. It's not because the wedding is approaching. Jaden Hayes kept asking me, Sophia Miller, you're not going to run away again, are you? I folded the gift boxes and put the handwritten letters inside. Where else could I run? He leaned in to kiss me, but I pushed him away and told him to put the gifts in the boxes. Without his mother's support and with his card frozen, I told him not to worry, as I had my own savings. I just told him that I would handle everything for the wedding myself and that he didn't need to worry about it. Jaden Hayes became even more clingy toward me. Even when I got up to use the restroom at night, he would suddenly wake up and sit there waiting for me to come back. It was funny. On the day of the wedding, Jaden Hayes' mother still came. She seemed to have given in to him. After all, he was her only son. There were many guests in the hall. Jaden Hayes asked me, "Do you have so many relatives?" I nodded. There was no one in the restroom, and he wanted to kiss me again. I avoided him. My makeup is smudged. He looked displeased. "Humph, what's wrong with you lately? You won't let me kiss or hug you? Want to keep things fresh?" "Wife," he suddenly called me that, and I froze for a moment. Someone knocked on the door outside. It was time for the ceremony. Jaden Hayes went out first. Emma G came out of the changing room, patted the frame in her hands, and covered it with a red cloth. "We're ready." She followed behind me, pretending to be the bridesmaid. I took a deep breath. "All right, let's go in." When the host announced, "Welcome everyone to the wedding of Mr. Ethan G. and Miss Sophie," I saw Jaden Hayes' mother suddenly stand up from her seat. Jaden Hayes looked confused. "Did you get it wrong, MC?" He couldn't even remember the name of the person he had killed back then. The MC looked just as confused. "No, it's correct. The posters outside all say Mr. Ethan G. and Miss Sophie." I smiled. "It's correct. Continue." The MC continued reading. Jaden Hayes saw the wedding photo on the screen behind us. That was a photo of Ethan G. and me from before. Jaden Hayes' face turned pale. He finally recognized us. "Long time no see, Mr. Hayes." I lifted my veil myself. "Thank you for attending my wedding with Ethan G." Emma G stepped forward, holding a tray with Ethan G's photo and the ring box. My hands were trembling, and I placed the sapphire ring on the photo. The ring Ethan G had bought for me, however, I couldn't put on because my hands were shaking too much. My wrist was gripped tightly. Jaden Hayes, his eyes red, choked out. "So the ring wasn't for me? And today isn't the day you're marrying me?" I sneered. "Jaden Hayes, if murder weren't illegal, I'd have had you torn to pieces 1,000 times over." His voice was trembling too. She. Are you joking with me?" I pointed at the guests below. "Do you see those people? They are Ethan's mother, his uncle, and his third uncle. They are his family." I emphasized those words. "They came to attend my wedding with Ethan. And you? You and your mother are only fit to kneel here and beg for their forgiveness." Jaden Hayes collapsed like someone had pulled the bones out of his body, his shoulders slumping. He still tried to grab my hand. "Cece, you still love me, don't you?" At that moment, he looked like a child who had lost his favorite toy. Standing there, begging for my pity. I took off my wedding dress and told him, word for word, with crystal clarity. "Jaden Hayes, I have never, ever loved you. I don't love you now, and I never will. Letting you die would be too easy for you. You must live to suffer. The love you saw was nothing but a false pretense I used to gather evidence of your crimes. And the time we spent together will be the greatest shame and stain of my life. It makes me feel utterly disgusted." Seeing the light fade from his eyes, I smiled. When the police came in, Jaden Hayes' mother was still shouting at him, "Jay, don't be afraid. They have no evidence. Don't let this woman deceive you. She definitely has no evidence." But Jaden Hayes suddenly confessed on his own. His tone was calm and emotionless. "How long will you keep making mistakes? 3 years ago, that car accident, I caused it. I was drunk and killed someone. Later, I had someone else take my place in prison. As he was being led away by the police, he passed by me. He suddenly went crazy, rushing over to grab my hand. He was eventually held down by the police. While changing clothes, I found the pink diamond ring in my pocket. After doing all this, I returned home alone. It was the new home Ethan G. and I had planned to live in. The double happiness characters on the wall were covered in thick dust and peeling at the edges. I closed all the doors and windows, lit a charcoal brazier, and lay down on the bed. As my consciousness faded, I seemed to see Ethan G. again. He was in the room, holding me and shaking me. He shouted at me angrily, "Sophie! Wake up!" I cried on his chest. "Don't be angry with me. I missed you so much." He kissed the top of my head, both angry and anxious. "I told you last time that if you dare to die, I'll marry someone else in my next life and the life after that. I won't wait for you." I cried even louder. He held me tightly and pointed out the window. "Even though you can't see me, I'm always here. Think about your family, think about your friends. Death isn't the end, life continues." I cried uncontrollably, "Ethan, I avenged you. I caught the bad guy, but I'm so dirty. I was with that person." It's okay, it's okay." He wiped my tears. "You're so brave, Mian Mian." "So, how could such a brave Mian Mian choose to commit suicide?" I said, "I miss you so much. Without you, I really don't know how to go on." He sighed. "Mian Mian, put me in your heart. Go finish the things I couldn't do, see the places I couldn't see. Travel across every corner of our homeland, smell the flowers for me, and listen to the whispers of all living things. Promise me, live on well." A loud bang, the window, which had been locked, had somehow been blown open by the wind. The charcoal brazier had long since gone out. I sat up in bed, drenched in sweat and tears. Outside the window, birds were chirping. A little red-billed bird hopped in. It dared to jump onto the bed. It tilted its head to look at me, then jumped into my palm. I gently closed my hand, feeling its warm, soft feathers and the strong beat of its little heart. I let go, and it flew around the room before landing on the balcony. I covered my face and burst into tears. "I promise you, Ethan. I will live well. I will love life. We'll meet again in our next life."